because I didn't have enough space on my computer, so that's why I'm recording our class. So if you would like to reference back to your writing expressions notes, get those out. If you feel comfortable without them, you do not have to get them out. And today is equation word problems solving. So really, we are taking the verbal and turning it into the numerical. So we're going to jump on down to the bunny rabbit. See what I did there? Although I should say we're going to hop on down to the bunny rabbit. So I want you to take a moment to read our situation about this rabbit and then ask yourself these questions here, right? Use a highlighter to help kind of clue in on what happens once. Now, the first thing I really need you to write down are our notes that I should have typed in here, but I forgot to. The thing that happens once, if I write AKA, anyone know what AKA means? Yeah, also known as. So another word that means the same thing. Also known as starts at. So that's the at symbol, right? So the happens once in our situation is also known as the starts at point. If you want to know the fancy name, it's the initial value. But I just wanted to make it a little bit easier for us. It's also known as the y-intercept, if you want another fancy word. I'm going to keep throwing words out, and then later when you hear it again, you'll be like, I've heard that before. And then eventually, we'll expect that you learn it. So our constant is what we're going to focus on here. Oh yeah, random cards. I heard Mr. Estes stole my idea. Has Mr. Estes started using random cards to call on people?
No, we use them for our questions about race.
Okay. Oh, for what question to take?
Yeah.
All right, Valerie, can you tell me in this bunny rabbit situation what happens once / also known as where we start? Yeah, now that, I'm glad you said that. Actually, that single M is meters. So a single M is meters. MI would be miles. So guys, I would highlight these with the same colors. I would highlight your 4 down the image, and the happens once is 4. So I don't care. It's your notes. If it bleeds through to the back, though, be aware. If you write with highlighter, you probably need to be kind of quick with it because you don't want to bleed through to the back of the notes. Charlie, what happens multiple times? What is the hop? 0.4 meters. So in a different color, I would advise 0.4 meters is the each hop. So each hop is going to happen multiple times, right? Because you can't just get there in one hop. What is going to be our variable here? What is the thing we don't know? Layla, what do you think? What are we going to use a variable for here? So he's at 4 meters, wants to get to that plant by hopping there. Yeah, amount of times he hops. So I'm going to go another different color. So number of hops. And Bella, what's our target result? Where are we trying to get to? Yeah, we're trying to get to the plant at 6. Tasty plant at 6. That plants are tasty? It's alright, your taste buds will change. Your taste buds all completely change every 7 years. I don't know. I mean, I was told that it was true, but if the person who told me was lying, then maybe it's not true. But alright, so guys, I made these notes really strategically in this space off beside the bunny rabbit. we're going to set up the equation. So we start at 4, and then we take a hop of 0.4. But that's not enough. So instead of just hopping once, yeah, see, this is the problem with me zooming out. I got to make sure that Gwen can see, so I'm zooming back in now. I would love to use H for hops. So instead of using X or Y or K or something that like is a little hard to be like, what are they talking about? Let's use H for hops. Now you don't have to put the multiplication symbol, but I would just to kind of remind yourself that we are multiplying. I'm wondering if I don't have enough light. There we go. And we are trying to end up at 6 meters. Take a moment to try to solve that on your own. Yeah, like how many hops? If you remind me, I always have that. By the time you guys get here, I always have at least a copy done. And actually, if somebody else walked in like late right now, I have another done copy that I could probably just give away right now. I'll sell it to one of you, but you joke. What's it worth? Complete, done, perfectly completed, color-coded notes. What's a pencil? I like you. I think you got the pencils I like too. Yeah, those are my favorites. I might let that go. Valerie, if you want to talk to me after class, I'll give away my notes. Well, and then if I give you notes, you don't need a pencil, right? So that's a perfect trade. All right, well, Valerie, I would pick on you since you just told me you'd trade me a pencil, but I'm going to keep going down my cards. So Kiki, what do I do first here? So check it. This is why I gave you the picture. How far does the rabbit need to go to get to the plant? 2 now. Right? And we only know that because if we talk about where he is here, up here, this piece we already know is 4. So we're going to subtract 4 from both sides. This is why we use inverse operations, is we want to look only at what is left. So you guys said the amount that is left is 2, and that's right. And he's got to get there in hops that are 0.4. So we're going to split up the entire distance. Mathematically, how do we split something up? Division. So we divide Yeah, we could also think of this as 20 divided by 4, because this division is kind of like hard to think about mentally. But remember, whatever you do on top, if you do the same thing on top and bottom, you're allowed to do kind of whatever you want. Valerie? So there should be, but when we're doing the algebra, like I love that question that you just asked. When we're doing the algebra, which is like what I write in red most of the time, we actually ignore the meters for a minute. Like we ignore all labels for a minute, because when we get our answer, what's the label of our answer going to be? This h equals 5 is not 5 meters. It's actually 5 hops. So that's why when we set up the equation, you could think about the fact that this is meters, but because we're using a variable, we normally don't use labels and variables at the same time. Once we get the variable by itself, then we decide what label do I need. Does that make sense? So I love that you brought up labels, because exactly what I was about to say is you have to have a label. When we solve for a variable, you have to have a label. I don't know. I mean, you guys come from a dozen different elementaries. I don't know if your sixth grade teacher ever said no naked numbers, but like a number has to have a label. Otherwise, it's naked. You can't run around naked. Not around here, anyways. Okay. So also you could write a number with no label, but it's frowned upon by me, which means that's going to get you a progressing. I like that you just said the establishment. Fight the power. What? Charlie said you can. It's just frowned upon by the establishment. She means the man. The man wants you to follow their rules. No, but we try Keenan's problem on your own. Think about what happens once, what's going to happen multiple times, what's the variable going to represent, what does Keenan want to get to? On your own. I'm going to use the same colors as above, right, to kind of keep my brain clued in. This is when having you guys in class is really fun because no one has to unmute or anything like that. Because I can like throw the questions like boom, 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 boom. Did you say ow? I didn't know what you said. So Gwen, what happens once and or where does Keenan start? Yeah, he starts at 8 push-ups. Because he currently does. Lily, what happens multiple times? Yeah, the increase of 2 push-ups, right? Because every day he increases by 2. I do +2 today. Tomorrow I do +2 +2. The next day I do +2 +2 +2. Powers doesn't work because that's repeated multiplication. Be careful. There's quicksand. Sophia, what is the variable going to represent here? What do you mean the number of times? What is the thing that's changing here? Number of push-ups and days. So the variable is going to be how many days, and we want to get to 30. So guys, check out how we're building these equations. Right? I'm going to write all this in purple, but you can see what's highlighted up there. The once is we start at 8, and then things change. Because Keenan decides he wants to get his beach body back, because maybe the world will come back to normal this year. So he adds on extra push-ups. But he says, you know what? I can do that addition every single day. Pick up he's pushing up. He's pushing up. Oh, well, that's fine. Whatever. I don't judge. All right, so I'm going to grab a Post-it so I can write this a little bit more cleanly. Guys, I don't know where all my Post-its went to. I used to have a ton. I'm going to try to find more for my class. But if you need a piece of scrap paper or graph paper, whatever, I have those quarter sheets up there. Remember, if you don't want to use a whole sheet of graph paper, I have those little guys. So if you need to go grab one, go grab one. But we started at 8. We had 2 push-ups every day, and we want to get to 30 per day, which would be 30 more push-ups than I do each day. Clark, what do we do first? Yeah, absolutely, my dude. We subtract the constant. So we want to say, well, stop looking at the starting push-ups and look at only the amount of push-ups we need to increase by. Right? How many does he need to increase by to get to 30? Well, if he's at 8 right now, the increase amount will need to be 22, right? He will need to gain 22 more push-ups. Then Maggie, man, we made it through the whole stack already. What do I do now? Yeah, absolutely. Divide by 2. Questions from the front bottom half of this paper. What label goes here? Days. That number is days. So even though we were talking about push-ups to start, the label attached to our variable is days, right? So I forgot to write that up here, but our variable represents days. Any questions from the front of the paper? Any questions? All over the place. All right, on your own, I'm going to flip the 5-minute timer. Do as much as you can on the back. I will tell you when we get down to this bottom section, we're actually going to do Roger, then the perimeter problem, then John, then Josh. So we're actually going to start with Roger. So do these top questions, then come down to the bottom section, but something that isn't... Thank you. Something that I didn't type up here is not only do I want you to figure out what the variable represents, but then solve it, of course. Let's go ahead and solve it. So you got 5 minutes. Go for it. That is the pause button. You tip the sand timer sideways. Be careful with those fractions. Fractions are dangerous. I know. I don't know. I like fractions better. What do you need with fractions? Common denominators. So be careful. You were just upside down for a minute. You have that much time. It's my document camera. It's so that it's heavy. It's broken. So here, you have to look up here if you want to see it's broken. So this was a lamp that I then taped my camera to, and I've now made it mad. All right, you should be solving your problems. Yeah, I know. No wonder it's broken, right? Just over time. It's because the hinge. And then there's Clark. Just over time. Yeah, old age. We all break eventually. Hey, so I want you using this time to practice things and figure out if you have questions and figure out if you need my help. Not just speculating how I break things, because that's pretty easy.
There are many ways to break things.
Normally gravity. Imagine we might have a different opinion.
Let's just come in here after gym. Yeah, just come in. Yeah, come in here after gym.
Yeah, but make sure you're trying on your own. It's like 50 out, actually. You guys are curious. there. It's going. It's
I'm sitting up on your desk.
now it is kilometers though, not miles. A kilometer is shorter than a mile. Just remember that. So it's not like he hiked 17 miles. I mean, it's a lot. 17 kilometers is a lot. But all right, and with that, the sand of time passes through the I don't know what the.
It's an egg timer.
It's like it's not some Indiana Jones thing where now the temple collapses. It's just a sand timer. All right. Shuffle up and deal. All right, Maggie. That seems appropriate. You were the last person called last time and the first person called this time. What does Y represent here? Do you want to tag somebody else in? Okay, because I'm going to put your card back in the deck and I'm going to come back to you for another question. Clark? Yeah, we made 3 different yo-yos, but when I look down here, there's no number 3, right? So that doesn't actually matter. What matters is the lengths used, and we have 1 3/4. Okay, sweet. So that's meters of string. 1, just like down there, that's another meter of string. So the Y is yo-yo number 3 that we don't know. If I kind of stick with my color coding of what I highlight in pink being our final goal, our like goal here is what they used, right? It is what we ended on. It's not really a goal, it's like our landing point. So, first thing I think about is like, can I clean anything up over here? Charlie, what do you think? Can I clean anything up over on the left side? Tell me more. I agree, but there's actually something I could do first.
You can also add the 1 to 1 3/4.
Yeah, let's go ahead and add those together. So I'm going to pop over here where I have some vertical space to work, guys. That's going to be 2 3/4 plus the third yo-yo equals our total of 4 1/3. Valerie, when we look at the denominators of 4 and 3, what common denominator do you think of? Valerie's. Thanks, guys. Valerie, I'll put your card back in the deck. Other people answer for you. But yeah, 12, right? Now, don't do common denominators yet. Or you can. But my opinion is let's go improper first, right? Improper first tends to avoid mistakes. So I'm actually going to improper first and go 4 times 2 plus 3 more. 11/4 plus Y. Over here, 3 times 4. Well, be careful. You should have said 12 and then 13. So now, to get to that denominator of 12 that we want to be common between the 4 and the 3, times 3 times 3 times 4 times 4. Any questions at this point? (33/12) plus a Y that we can't add because they're not like terms. And what's 13 times 4? Yeah, sounds right. If we all say yeah enough, it must be true. Look, math is hard. I don't expect you to be able to do it. I'm here to help you. So if we want to get the y by itself, we need to remove the 33/12. So just remove them, take them away, subtract them. Goodbye. Sayonara. TTFN. What's TTFN mean? Does nobody know what TTFN means? It's from Winnie the Pooh. Okay, first off, you are a child. Second off, in Winnie the Pooh, Tigger, the tiger, says TTFN, ta-ta for now. I love TTFN. Yeah, don't act like you know it now. You already ruined it. Y equals how many twelfths? Well, go improper first. Yeah, it's... Yeah, I know, my class is more fun. You are correct, 1 and 7/12. Now, guys, I'm going to tell you, that is as hard of a problem as you will see on a mastery right now. Like, that's the hardest problem you would see on a mastery right now. Okay? So, I plan on using decimals a lot more than I do fractions. Do this one on your own. I don't know. Who cares? Yeah, it's like 250, guys. I got plenty of time. Do the daycare one on your own. If you've already done that, move on down to the bottom section and try to solve those. If you have a question, please ask a neighbor. You guys can talk to each other. Like, I assume you guys are probably talking about math, maybe, hopefully. So again, down here, guys, this is a bit tougher to answer what A represents. Figure out what A represents and then solve for A. Yeah, look, if you keep people after they're supposed to go home, you should pay them. Like, you should have to pay for that. I mean, it depends. Like a daycare place, you can't just like leave your child with somebody and be like, "Ha, they're yours." Like, you have to come get them. Like, hey guys, I don't want to be one of those teachers that is like, it has to be silent while you're working, but I can pretty much tell you're not doing math, so you're kind of abusing the freedom I'm giving you. It's okay to talk if we're trying to do the math at the same time. So we should be highlighting important things, then assessing what would the 0.5a mean, like what does that a mean, and then solve for it. Hey, that doesn't need answered right now, Charlie. So I am going to rein us back in a little bit and say the silly questions need to, like, let's stifle those down. We need to try to finish these last equations because they're tough. The ones at the bottom of the page are tough. Because it's not $3.50. So, Clark, like, that's a good question, but notice the highlighting up here. There's a base fee of $3. You could put a period there. And then another fee of 50 cents per minute. Does that make sense? Yeah, this is not $3, and it's literally $3 plus a separate fee. Does that make more sense now? We cannot add the $3 with the 50 cents because the 50 cents is part of the separate fee. The $3, who's ever been to care after school? Yeah, so sometimes your parents have to work late. You go to care after school, and either it's paid for like by the government, like our community just provides it, or your parents pay like $5 a day or something like that. But if you're late, I'm making this up. I have no idea what they actually charge, so I have no clue. Really? That's probably like $5 a day. Probably pretty close. That's like $10 a day, probably. But so So this is what Lily is saying would be like the monthly fee that just gets paid. But then if Lily's parents are late to pick her up, you get fined. This is like an extra fine, right? Like you did something bad. So, does anyone want to tell me what you think the A represents? Maggie? Yeah, the A is the minutes after. Guys, they chose A for after. It's after closing. So, come out here and write our equation out. Come out here and write our equation out. Bella, what are we going to do first on both sides here? Ooh, careful. If let's say the parent is upset and they're like, "Are you kidding? I owe you $10.50. What's my extra fee?" The first thing they're going to wonder is if we take away the 3, what is the fee that they're getting paid for the extra time? So you're right with subtraction, but we subtract 3. Because be careful, the 0.5 is multiplied, right? So if you need to put the multiplication symbol here to remind yourself, put the dot between there. But we're going to subtract 3 on both sides. So for the after closing time fee, well, $10.50 minus 3 is $7.50. So their fee for just the late, right, like the tardy fee, is $7.50. Now, like you want to know, well, how long was I left there, right? How do we get the A by itself? Layla? How do we undo this 0.5? Yeah, absolutely. Man, my ears are getting tested with you guys talking in masks. But yeah, Layla said we have to divide. When we divide by a small number, we get bigger. Because if you divide by a half, what you're actually doing, and I'm going to write it in a different color up here. The other option I have is how many halves does it take to make a whole? You could do times 2, right? You could do times 2. That does the same thing. We're trying to turn a half into a whole. What we're actually doing is doubling. You can write it as division, but this actually doubles. So I'm going to put a big OR out here to remind us we talked about options there. And double of 750 is 15 minutes. Our label there would be minutes. I'm going to do the commission problem for you guys. Roger. All right. You guys know you don't get any more Fridays, right? So you guys know that between now and March 22nd, Green is going to gain 4 days on you. So you guys know that like every minute we have in class is like precious. Sure. So I mean, like, if you guys want to talk for the next 8 minutes, I cannot do more math for you, but your Khan Academy is going to be pretty tough. Or we could focus up and do math. You tell me. We seem real chatty today, and I don't want to be that like mean teacher, but if you guys don't want to do math, whatever. You're going to make your life harder. I'm trying to make your life easier by cramming in as much as I can today because you're not here the next 2 days. And we have a test on Monday. So, if we look at Roger's situation, we want to say, where do we start at? And I'm going to actually grab a Post-it so I have like the ability to just write on top of this. If you need to get an extra sheet of paper or whatever, you can. Roger gets $40 a day to start. Wages, that means what you're paid no matter what. So if you don't know what the word wages means, That's like what you get paid no matter what. And then when you work at a job where sales matters, and notice, guys, this is tricky because it says $40 per day. But they want us just looking at a single day. So we're not solving for how many days. Right? That's why this per day doesn't do anything. We just write down $40. Because that only happens once in the day. The thing that can happen multiple times here is his commission. When does he get $4.50? Every pair of shoes. If someone is trying to sell you something, they're probably going to make money off you. Like the guy at Best Buy who's like, oh, you looking for a flat screen? Like, they're probably going to make money off of you. The person trying to sell your parents a snowblower saying like, oh, you know that snowstorm? They're going to make money off of you. This is how the world works, right? Like that. That's why that's why I decided to become a teacher, is to try to help you guys understand and not get taken advantage of. I want you to understand how the world works. Someday you'll come back and you'll be like, hey, I get it. I appreciate what you taught us. So his commission amount would be added on. I'm going to keep going. If you ignore me, that's totally fine. But his commission amount would be added on and multiplied by the number of pairs of shoes he sells. If we want to look at just his commission, right? Because they ask us to solve how many pairs of shoes would he need to sell to get that total in a day. We need to get rid of his wages, or like the last set of notes said, do the constant first. You could draw the line down the middle if you want. That tells us that in a day where he earns $112, if you take away the $40 he gets no matter what, he would need to earn $72 in commission. Gwen, how do I undo this multiplication? By what on both sides? Yeah, the number we want to get rid of is what we divide by. So we want to get P by itself, so we divide by the 450. I forget to... Do you have the answer back there? I forget what the answer is. 16. So if he sells 16 pairs of shoes, which isn't that crazy. Like during busy shopping seasons, if you're selling shoes, you could probably sell a pair like every 10 or 15 minutes. Like, think about the malls when they're crowded. Like back pre-pandemic, right? And I hate saying that, but like I think we're all just, we know, right? Come on, let's not like try to hide anything. Pre-pandemic, people would be like packed in there. Like there's nowhere to sit and try shoes on. You could sell 16 pairs of shoes in a day. Guys, I also want you to know how to do this math so when you look at getting a job, you know how to evaluate which job is better than which job. A job with commission is better than McDonald's because McDonald's doesn't pay you for how many cheeseburgers you make, but the shoe store pays you for how many shoes you sell. I mean, this is a flat commission. They say he gets $4.50 per pair. A lot of commissions are a percent commission, where like the more expensive the shoe, the more money you make, right? So there's different commissions. We're going to jump down to John because we don't have very much time left. Guys, those of you who keep trying to talk over me, you're going to struggle on your Khan Academy, and I will feel bad, and I will help you, but I will say I told you so, because this sort of problem is where everyone starts to trip up. John read the first 114 pages of a novel. Sweet. Then they go on to say, which was, guys, this really means like equals. When they say which was, so they're saying that 114 is equal to something. It's our job to determine what it's equal to. It's equal to 3 pages less than 1/3 of the novel. Guys, less than is also one of the harder things for us to remember. That means take away from something else. So this does not mean 3 minus. It means we need to have a -3 somewhere. So the equation we're actually going to set up is John's number of pages, 114, is almost 1/3 of the novel. But how many pages short is he? 3. So we do -3. Now, if he reads those 3 more pages, well, let's do it. Let's make John read those 3 more pages. Okay, add 3. Add 3. Now he has read 1/3 of the book. So now we have 1/3. P equals, what's on my left side? 1/17. Then, what do I do to 1/3 to turn it into 1? Ooh, both things I heard are right. You could divide by the fraction, or what I think is almost easier here is just think about tripling, right? How many thirds do you need to make a whole? 3. We need 3/3. So then this would come out to be the number of pages in the book. I'm not sure how many it is. 350 something, I think. Over the next 2 days, as I'm teaching Green Group, I promise we're going to do more of these. So if you are struggling on your Khan Academy, check my YouTube after tomorrow or on Friday. Promise I will upload more of these videos. If you want to come back during extensions and work on the Josh problem or work on any of your practice work, please come back and hang out with me. Guys, I normally only have 2 or 3 people here and we just do math. We just put it up on the screen. We just do math. So please come do math with me. Otherwise, I sit here and I'm bored and I count birds out the window or something. Do work, play music, dance. Get a girlfriend. I'm married. Lily, I would get in trouble if I got a girlfriend. Because I have a wife, so that's... All right, you said play music and dance, so here you go.